minds, my dears.
What the hell is wrong with you?
What the hell is wrong with you?
Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Ryno's Rants. We are sitting here Monday, May 22nd. And we're looking to yet the continuing saga of as the Dalvin turns, like sands through the hourglass, whatever those old soap operas that our parents and grandparents used to watch back in the 80s and whatever all else. The Dalvin Cook situation should be coming to a head, I believe, within the next 10 days, probably. Skull for Life, good evening. Good evening, Doc Proto. Good evening, Purple and Gold for Days. Justin, how are you guys doing? But of course, looking at the Dalvin Cook situation, for those of you who've been under a rock and don't know what's going on, the Vikings did end up paying his roster bonus at the start of the league year, which was guaranteed for injury purposes, and being he had that surgery on his shoulder. That was guaranteed, which kind of screwed up the salary cap thing for the Vikings getting rid of him prior to now. Hey, Ray, good evening. But, and I think it also screwed up partially any trades that may have been done during the draft, simply for the fact that Dalvin Cook would not have been able to pass a physical at that point in time. But a couple of key things right now. My worthless opinion. Welcome again. Thanks, guys, everybody, for showing up. It was a smart play by Cook. Doc, I agree with that. I mean, he had every right to do that. I mean, probably should have had the surgery done a couple of years ago. But, and I understand it from Kwesi's and the current regime's point of view. You don't want to be paying premium price to a non-premium position anymore. Kwesi, being an analytics and numbers guy, realizes that. The Vikings have said all the right things, that they want to do right by Dalvin Cook. They, they're not going to screw him over anyway. However, and they have left the door open to Cook remaining with the team. However, they have also made that clear that it would not be able to happen under the current contract. So if Dalvin wishes to stay with Minnesota, he would have to take a significant pay cut in order to do so. Now, Cook last Thursday posted a message on his Instagram account. This is how we find out everything and how we know players are not happy, this, that, and everything else, when they start scrubbing Instagram and Twitters and all that other stuff. But the usual gang of idiots. Hey, I'll take this gang of idiots over anybody. I'm glad you guys are here. I'm so appreciative of you guys joining us every week. Can't convey enough how much that means to myself and to Brunswick, for all the support you guys have given us over the last 2+ years. But anyway, with Dalvin Cook on Thursday posted on his Instagram account, your value does not decrease based on someone's inability to see your worth. So that comment right there kind of reinforces what was said at the, prior to the start of the league year, that Dalvin Cook has no interest in taking a pay cut to stay in Minnesota. Looking at the cap consequences, if he was to be traded now or released now, we actually eat more dead money than we would gain. I think we would eat like 7 million and gain 5 or 5.5, something like that. But in 9 day or 10 days, once June 1st rolls around, the numbers get way better from the Viking standpoint. If they were to cut Dalvin Cook straight out after June 1st, we would clear $9 million in salary cap. But if they can find a trade partner, we would save $11 million by trading him. These numbers, of course, according to the website Over the Cap, couple of places that are still being mentioned. Jeremy Fowler of ESPN on Friday said to keep an eye on the Miami Dolphins as a potential trading partner. Miami has been a rumored destination for Dalvin Cook pretty much since all this started at the end of the season. Of course, Dalvin being from Miami, went to school down there, everything else, it would be a homecoming for him. Miami finagling a few things. I think they're probably waiting to make sure he can pass a physical, which, according to reports, he is now being able to do more full workout type stuff. Of course, not approved for any contact or anything yet, but by all intents and purposes, probably would be able to pass a physical, or at least, show enough for people to be confident that he's going to be fine. Another location that still tends to pop up from time to time would be the Buffalo Bills. Of course, Dalvin's little brother is up there. Buffalo still in need of a run game. Biggest thing with Buffalo is they are kind of tied up against the salary cap themselves. So that alone, unless they can do a new deal, restructured deal, something like that, probably makes Buffalo less likely of a trading partner. Then the third place I keep hearing all the time is the Cincinnati Bengals. Their potential to be moving on from Joe Mixon, and Dalvin Cook's name keeps popping up from time to time there as well. So, do these teams just wait it out and force the Vikings to release him and then fight it out at the end? I mean, obviously, Miami probably would hold a bit of an edge in that regard. There is also, supposedly, I heard this today, that Dalvin Cook actually has been working out with the same trainer that trains Tua Tagovailoa. So, the stars keep aligning and all the dots keep pointing towards Miami being the most likely destination. Now, hopefully, we can at least get a late round pick of something, 5th round pick, something. Ideally, you get more than that, but with his contract being what it is, it's kind of cost prohibitive for a lot of teams. So, if we can pull a 5th, maybe a conditional 5th that would go to a 4th if he meets certain escalators, things like that. I mean, that would be the ideal scenario. But realistically, if you can get any kind of compensation back for Cook, it's kind of the same thing that we ended up doing with Zadarius Smith. Hey, Thadir, glad you could join us. People bitch and piss and moan about the compensation we got for Zadarius Smith. We got something from a guy who did not want to be here and was not going to play here. So getting something is better than getting nothing and just releasing. So talk about Dallas looking at Cook. There was, at one point in time, that steam has kind of passed by. I haven't heard a single thing about Dallas for a while. to me, Dallas never made sense because you put Pollard on the franchise tag for this year. So he's making 12, 13 million, whatever it is. And it made no sense because then they had Zeke Elliott, who was making 14 million, whatever it was as well. Now they let Zeke go, but bringing Dalvin Cook in, you return yourself to the same position, and you're paying over $20 million in just to the running back position. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Doc, at this point, just give me a pick. Have to shed his cap. I agree 100%, kind of like what I was saying there before. The biggest thing we got to remember here, too, is we're going to have to give Danielle Hunter a new contract prior to the season, because I don't think he's showing up for training camp or at least he's not going to come to the OTAs and mandatory mini camps and stuff. I don't believe, unless he has assurances and they're working towards getting a deal done for him. And I don't fault Hunter for that at all either, because he has taken several team-friendly restructures and deals over the last few years just to stay here with the team. And, he's 28 years old. He's going to he wants to get paid like his production warrants. And I don't blame him for that. And the Vikings want to keep him. I don't think they ever really wanted to move him. I know Brian Flores wants to have him on this team. And let's be honest, if we don't have, now that Za'Darius is gone, if we were to trade Dalvin Cook, we really have no proven edge rushers on this team. I mean, Marcus Davenport is up and a down. Sometimes he's very good. Sometimes he's not so good. Patrick Jones II has shown flashes at times, but has not really had a lot of opportunities. DJ Wanham, again, a hot and cold type guy, and who is also going into the final year of his contract. You've got Andre Carter II, who we just drafted, who I think is probably, has a very good opportunity to be in the long-term plans as a starter at the edge. Davenport, of course, only on a one-year deal as well. But, I think the priority right now is to make Danielle Hunter happy. Now, we have like $9.25 million in cap space right now after the Za'Darius Smith trade, and then we had to go and sign Jordan Addison, of course. So that leaves us about that. Now, with that $9 million and the 4 to 5 or whatever it is that Danielle Hunter's scheduled to make right now this year, you can probably make that work from a cap standpoint, issuing signing bonuses and things like that. But then you still have no rainy day fund, so to speak, because ultimately someone's going to get hurt. We're going to have to go out and pick up a player. Something's not going to pan out. We're going to have issues somewhere. And you need to have something there to make these moves if necessary. And the Dalvin Cook, clearing that cap space gives you that. So did we get all the rookies handled, Doc? Yes, the rookies are all signed now as of Thursday last week it was, I believe. I know it got done after we recorded the main show for Friday, and before the actual airing on Friday. But yeah, all 6 are now signed. So everybody is present, accounted for, taken care of. Everybody is at OTAs started today. There's today, tomorrow, then they have Wednesday off, and then they have another one Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I believe it is. So, no word on any of the guys, that didn't take part in the rookie mini camp, like Dwayne McBride. I know he didn't do the rookie camp because he's nursing a hamstring. And, the name has escaped me, the wide receiver from Kansas State drawing a blank on his name right now. I love the kid because he's that Swiss Army knife type player, and I watched quite a bit of him, but I can't think of his name right now for the life of me. But anyway, but back on the Dalvin Cook thing, the writing has been on the wall for the long time that the Vikings understand that he's not going to be here, and I think Dalvin's camp knows he's not going to be here. You look at all the promotional stuff that came out with the schedule release and things like that. That all had Alexander Mattison on it, not Dalvin Cook. The Vikings social media pages, again, Mattison on their header page, the header picture, not Cook. The Dalvin Cook tweets and posts on his social media accounts. Dalvin's agent going on, I forget which show it was here a few weeks back, somebody's podcast, and basically talking shit about the Vikings organization to a point. You basically, misusing Dalvin Cook and this, that, and everything else. Did we misuse him some last year? It can be argued. But of course, when you go from Cook getting 350 plus touches under the Mike Zimmer regime, where, of course, as we all know, the mandate was to run the ball, and then after you're done with that, run the ball some more, to a more pass-centric offense where Cook's touches were drastically reduced. Now, that being said, last year was the first year, I believe, of his career where Dalvin actually played in all 17 games. So, is that partially due to the lightened workload? I think that had something to do with it. Is there other options, that was he misused? Yeah, I always thought we should have used him more in the pass game. We kept running that stupid tight end screen all the time that never worked. But if we would, get Dalvin out in space and throw screen passes to him and little flare outs and stuff, that seemed like it worked more. I know reading some of the social media stuff the last couple of days again, too, on some of this other stuff, there's a certain camp, of course, that is completely adamant about not getting rid of Dalvin Cook. I saw somebody today say that we would not make the playoffs without Cook. I don't agree with that. Of course, losing Cook, Alexander Mattison does not have that home run hitting ability that Cook does. He's probably more consistent, and this was a good point that was brought up. I believe it was Ben Gessling on Monday, or what might have been Friday, talking about, he was on with Dan Barrero on KFan, and they were talking about this, and he said, Gessling brought up that his kind of impression is that the Vikings are looking at Mattison as more of a consistent back. You're not going to have as many negative plays like Dalvin did. Dalvin led the league in negative rushes for like 1 yard, 0 yards, or negative yardage last year. He was still fourth leading rusher in the NFL, but a lot of those came on those few home run hits that he did get. Now, that being said about Mattison, we also have, of course, Cook up the middle for 0 yards. We saw that way too many times last year, especially after Bradbury went out and you got backup centers in there and you keep running Cook up the middle. Cook should spend more of his time running off tackle, running between the tackle and the guard, getting out in space, things like that, not pounding it up the middle. That is where Alexander Mattison excels because he's more of a power back. Now, assuming Cook is gone, which I'm going by that assumption right now, that, we do have potential home run hitting ability yet in Ty Chandler, and probably even more so with rookie Dwayne McBride. McBride had a lot of big plays when he at UAB. Now he also had a little bit of an Adrian Peterson issue where he tends to put the ball on the ground once in a while. Not to say Dalvin Cook doesn't do that as well, because he has had those problems in the past too. But, the NFL is going more towards that running back by committee. You don't have these workhorse running backs. The position itself has been devalued to a point where you can't justify paying a running back $14 million a year, especially when you've got guys like Justin Jefferson, TJ Hawkinson, now Jordan Addison, if he progresses and becomes what everybody thinks he can be. KJ Osborne, we've got a full stable of quality wide receivers plus a hell of a tight end. So, there's a paradigm shift going on from the old school Mike Zimmer 90s era offense where you just hand the ball off and start pounding it, to this more high flying, the McVay, O'Connell, Shanahan type offenses, the, back to the greatest show on turf type things, even back in the 90s to the early in the 2000s. It's just the way that the league is going. You see it with Andy Reid and Mahomes in Kansas City now. They've got 7th round running backs doing their Pacheco and Edwards-Helaire. And Edwards-Helaire was a 1st round pick, I guess. But Pacheco last year, he was a 7th rounder, and he shouldered most of the load at running back. And then you've got Mahomes throwing it all over the yard to whatever wide receivers that they have out there. Of course, Tyreek Hill moved on, and they just replaced him with somebody else and kept right on going. So I think that's more the style that the Vikings want to get to. And again, not relying so much on run. You have to be able to run the ball. But if Dalvin Cook is gone, you go more with that committee. Alexander Mattison is going to be more of that Leroy Horde type style. It's going to get you 3-4 yards a crack. With McBride and Chandler potentially getting you that home run hit every once in a while. You still got Kene Wangwu, who, if you can get him out in space with the ball in his hands, we've seen, can make magic happen. Now, is he, at this point, I'm not even sure that Wangwu is a lock to make the roster coming out of camp with the addition of McBride. Depends on if they keep 3 running backs or 4, I guess. Of course, you've still also got C.J. Ham, who counts as a running back, another hammer there. So it's going to be interesting to see what O'Connell does year 2, but I think we are all fairly confident in saying that we are not going to be a run-first team. It'd be nice to have maybe a little more balance than we did at times last year, but I guess, time will tell. We'll see here, but excuse me. I don't know what you guys in the chat, what are your thoughts on this stuff? I guess I want to hear from you too while I'm here. We're 25 minutes into it, and I've got pretty much everything I wanted to talk about covered. So you guys have any opinions on this? Doc, we tried run first. It doesn't work anymore. I agree with that. It to a point it can, but with that run first and ignore the pass type stuff, you end up basically what the Vikings have shown or what Tennessee has shown. You get your ceilings usually are wild card to divisional round. Maybe once in a while you'll pop up to the NFC Championship game, but without having that explosive ability, you're not gonna get to the ultimate goal. Skull for life. We're going to be a pass-happy team. That's what we need. Backs are 3-4 yards at a time. Absolutely agree with that. That's the modern NFL. You have your running backs just to kind of keep everybody honest with the passing game and for short yardage stuff, things like that. But by and large, most of your yardage is going to be gained in the air, whether it's you're going deep over the middle to Jefferson or Addison, Hawkinson or Osborne across the middle, flare outs to one of the running backs, or Jordan Addison, like Lance and I talked about on Friday, ran a lot of wide receiver screens and flares out of the back, out of the backfield, wheel routes, things like that. So I think they're going to use him quite a bit in that role as well. So it just does not warrant paying a running back big money anymore. I mean, what did we re-sign Madison for? Was it $3 million a year, something like that? That's about the going rate for what you're going to want to pay for running backs. It sucks for the running backs because they're not going to get the contracts that they have gotten in the past. Dalvin Cook probably is one of the last of the big contract running backs. I mean, right now you've got, Saquon Barkley in New York. They franchised him, so he's going to get his money similar to that. But other than that, I don't know. G-Mac, fashionably late. You made it. Worthless opinion. I wouldn't be opposed to releasing Dalvin rather than trading him for a late round pick. Let him test the market. I don't necessarily disagree with that. I mean, it's nice to get I would like to get a pick for him, but the bigger reason that I would trade him instead of versus just releasing him is because we go from we clear an extra $2 million in salary cap if we can trade him. That's probably more important than the 5th or 6th round pick you're going to get for him. So I guess that's, to me, why I would prefer to trade him. And I think if he gets traded to someplace like Miami, I believe behind the scenes there has been discussions going on. There may be a handshake, wink, wink, nod, nod deal between Kwesi and whoever the Dolphins GM is. And Dalvin Cook, of course, involved in that process. And I'm guessing Dalvin would be more than happy to go back home. There again, putting Dalvin Cook on the Dolphins offense is going to help them out a ton, especially with Tua with his concussion issues he had last year. Giving him an explosive running back to pair along with that. It definitely makes Miami more of a contender in the AFC East. Now, there again, can he do the same here? Yeah, he could, but the salary cap doesn't fit for what the Vikings want to do. And I've said this, I don't know how many times in the past. I'm one of in that camp of I don't want to give any running back a big dollar second contract. That time has come and gone. You get him, you run them for their 4 to 5 years, whatever their first contract is. Thank them for their service and let them move on. Skull Mafia, good evening. Thanks for joining. Doc, any picks as Hamill to move up? That's true, because we're probably going to be looking at moving up for a quarterback next year. We were going to do it this year. It came out here just not too long ago that if Bryce Young had not been taken first, the Vikings had every intention of doing what they needed to do to move up and get him. We all thought, a lot of us, myself included, thought maybe Anthony Richardson was going to be the target. Apparently, they didn't like him enough to make that move up, but they would have done so for Bryce Young, meaning that they probably will at least make an attempt next year, whether it's going up for a Caleb Williams, a Drake May, somebody like that. Whoever the third quarterback in this class is going to be in 2024, depending upon who all comes out, it's shaping up to be a very good quarterback class. So, and with the Vikings set as they are, we're not going to be terrible. If you watch, a lot of the schedule release stuff, Lance had him at 12-5. I think I had him at 11-6. Score for like Bo Nix. He's a guy to keep an eye on. Dolphins don't really need him now, do they? They did sign back some of the guys that they had, but they were pretty low dollar deals. So I think they would view Dalvin Cook as an upgrade and could probably get rid of the guys that, cut them and not be out much. March for Arch. That's all well and good, GMAC, but Arch Manning isn't going to be draft eligible for at least 2 more years, I think it is. So, if you're going to do something like that, then you would have to, either sign a bridge quarterback, look at extending Kirk Cousins another year or so. If Kirk would be amicable to a 1-year extension. Do you see any more changes to this roster? Get a head start on the March for Arch. I prefer to find a quarterback before then, but yeah, Arch Manning definitely has the lineage to be a very good quarterback down the road anyway. But anyway, back to Thadir's comment here. Do we see any more changes to the roster? I don't think there's going to be anything big unless there's some surprise cut of a player that the team covets, once training camp is done. I could see maybe if they don't like what they're seeing out of some of the cornerback depth, maybe looking at some of the guys that are out there. There's still a couple of decent free agents out there. Saw again, somebody pulled the Ndamukong Suh rumor out of the closet and threw it back out there, going to see if it sticks. Ndamukong Suh has already said he has no desire to go to an NFL training camp, but he would like to play again. Part of that, start that kind of stuff. I'm to the point now where, okay, I don't want you here then because you need to be here. You need to be getting familiar with the playbook. You need to be getting, bonding with your teammates. You need to be doing stuff like that. And Ndamukong Suh is like 35 years old, 36 years old. He does not, and is going to want $9-10 million a year to come back in. Suh does not really fit that profile of the players that Kwesi and KOC have been going after. I don't think, worthless opinion, I don't think Flores wants Suh. I don't think he does either. Like I said, at his age, he doesn't fit what I think the Vikings want to do at that position. And, especially we brought in guys already. We brought in Dean Lowry. We drafted Jacqueline Roy, the Avery kid out of Illinois. We picked up as an undrafted free agent, a big dude in the middle that can possibly work his way into playing time at nose tackle. I think they look strongly at kicking Harrison Phillips out to either the 5 tech or the defensive end, whatever you want to call it. I think that's a more natural position for him than playing nose like he was last year, which means Kiris Tonga, Avery, Jacqueline Roy can play the nose as well. Suh is a 1 or 2 down guy anyway. Yeah, that's also true. So that makes it even more unlikely you're going to pay $9-10 million for a rotational guy. I don't see it happening. I never have been a big Ndamukong Suh guy. I think he is a pain in the ass. I think he is bad for the locker room. And Flores wants controlled aggression. Suh has a bad attitude. That's exactly the point I was just getting at. I don't think he fits the culture. I don't think he fits the scheme. He's at a point where, if he wants to go someplace and be a rotational guy for $3-4 million a year, you might get a little bit out of him again. Doesn't he like stomping Packers, though? He likes stomping whoever gets in his way, I think. He's kind of mellowed a little bit from what had happened before. But there again, that is just another thing to where it shows that that's not the kind of player that this regime is looking at. They look at not only players that, have high upside, maybe that have been injured but still have a high ceiling. They also look for high character type guys. You don't see them going after too many of these guys that, have a bad attitude or have the red flags. That was the thing with the quarterback. Will Levis was right there. We could have taken him if we wanted him. And early on in the process, the rumor was that the Vikings really liked Will Levis. But then the more they started doing background checks on him, they kind of realized that he didn't really fit the system, fit the culture, and all that other stuff. Kind of went. It didn't go as far as the whole trading and stuff of a Sonny Weaver Jr. out of the movie Draft Day, but that fall that Levis had, and if you looked at Levis when he was sitting in the green room and stuff there, you could tell he had that has that attitude and personality. Kind of to me, he gave me a lot of Sam Darnold type vibes. I don't know what it was about him, but it just, when I saw him and saw his attitude and stuff like that, the first thing that popped in my mind was Sam Darnold. Also, back in the day, a Jeff George type stuff that got, guy's a complete prick and not very good with his teammates and stuff, hell of an arm talent, but ultimately the attitude and the personality is what kind of screwed him over. Remember Warren Sapp yelling at the Packers coach to put a jersey on. I still, that time when we could have had Warren Sapp on the same defensive line as John Randall, we missed that opportunity. There's a what could have been there. Levis's personality dropped him. I think that's a lot of what happened there as well. But anyway, guys, we've gone about 40 minutes here, and I really don't have a whole lot else to talk about. But again, want to thank all you guys for joining us in the chat, for giving your opinions and interacting and everything else. I love doing this live show. I love talking to you guys, talking football, discussing all opinions are welcome here, whether they're good, bad, or otherwise. We'll talk about them. We'll discuss them. Again, thank you guys. GMAC, Worthless Opinion, Doc Proto, Skull for Life, Thadir, Justin, everybody who Skull Mafia, and everybody else who I'm forgetting, Dan. Thank you guys all for joining in on this. Also want to give a shout out, because I promised I would do this. Vikings Uncensored has a Philippines fan club now, 3 members. So a shout out to BB, Jen, and Nonoy. I promised those guys, Ray, thank you again. Promised those guys I would give them a shout out tonight. So there you go. But beyond that, again, thank you, everybody. Make sure you check out Brunswick's Best on Wednesday, where he looks at the best players in Vikings history to wear the number 9 this week. And, of course, we will have our regular studio show on Friday night, where again, we took a look at part 2 of our Meet the Rookie series, where we are going to be looking at the 2 LSU players that we drafted, Ward and Ja'Kalen Roy this week. So tune in for that, and we'll have some other shenanigans and whatever all else we can think of for Friday. But with that, thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you on Friday.